Hi, this is Daniel Hutchins. Today we're going to be doing an article from our friends CBR.com. So today from CBR.com we're going to be talking about U.S. Agent. So U.S. Agent, the other failed Captain America, almost killed the MCU hero. Now John Walker was almost killed as the U.S. Agent when he came face to face with yet another failed version of Captain America. So we're going to be talking about that. This information was hot 3 hours ago. So Disney Plus series Falcon Winter Soldier recently concluded with John Walker taking on the identity of U.S. Agent. Admittedly though, he isn't as well known as Steve Rogers or Sam Wilson, but he does have a place in Marvel mythos as the failed Captain America. However, Walker isn't the only person who failed at taking up the iconic mantle. There is one super soldier who proved to be far more dangerous, as the U.S. Agent discovered firsthand. Now, Clint McIntyre was a soldier in the 1940s who debuted in Captain America number 28 by Dan Jurgens and Andy Kubert. Unlike the scrawny and underwhelming Steve Rogers, he was at the pinnacle of human physicality. As a result, there were quite a few members of Project Rebirth that felt Clint was more deserving than Abraham Erskine's super soldier serum. However, this soldier lacked the key trait that won Steve the serum: pure intent. Now, the only reason Clint was even participating in this experiment was to avoid punishment for killing his commanding officer. Okay, so Dr. Erskine gave Steve the serum, but this was not the end of for McIntyre. A rebellious member of the project stole a prototype version of the serum and administered it to him, granting him even greater strength and speed. However, though, this process of administration was not complete. Without the vital ways needed to complete this treatment, Clint McIntyre went mad and killed several soldiers before passing out due to the stress on his heart. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier's U.S. Agent may connect to a key Phase 1 villain. Okay, so Clint was chronologically frozen to prevent him from harming anyone else and placed in the care of S.H.I.E.L.D., where he would remain until the modern day. McIntyre was discovered by the agent of AIM, who awakened him, intending to use the unstable super soldier as a weapon for their own ends. Okay, so McIntyre woke up with no memory of his past life, giving AIM the perfect opportunity to mold him into the tool they needed. They fed him lies to make him believe Steve had stolen his wife as Captain America. Organizations he worked with were enemies of America. Now loyal to AIM, McIntyre was rechristened as Protocide and given a shield that mimicked Captain America's. Okay, now more about this. Okay, so related to this article is U.S. Agent formed a forgotten team with Hawkeye and War Machine. We're not talking about that, we're talking about someone else. So after serving well on the first few missions, AIM sent Protocide after U.S. Agent as a test, wishing to see how he fared against another super soldier. McIntyre outclassed U.S. Agent, with Walker being no match for his physical ability. Even though John was a career soldier, McIntyre was in physical class all his own, making him far more powerful than U.S. Agent and, by extension, Steve Rogers as well. But their difference did not end with merely their physicality. For all of John's flaws, he was far more stable than Protocide, being able to tell right from wrong in most cases. McIntyre had already murdered someone before being given the serum based on the merits of his strength. Not that his heart, a decision that led to him being put in a stasis for decades. Regardless of his mistakes, McIntyre was still a soldier at heart. He loved his country and wanted to defend it. When he eventually realized Captain America was not the monster that AIM had made him out to be, Protocide sacrificed himself to save Steve Rogers. Despite his flaws, Protocide eventually proved worthy of the serum, making the ultimate sacrifice for the benefit of his country. Okay, So next, we're going to be doing a bonus. So Scarlet Witch and U.S. Agent helped build Marvel's worst Avengers team. Okay, so Scarlet Witch and U.S. Agent helped build Marvel's worst Avengers team. Now, Force Works formed after the dissolution of the West Coast Avengers. Here is how Scarlet Witch and the U.S. Agent played a part of them. This was also hot off the truck 2 days ago. So when the threats of the 1980s Marvel Universe became too much for the one Avengers team they handle, Marvel created a new Avengers team based in California called the West Coast Avengers. This team allowed the rebellious Hawkeye the chance to lead his own team, which turned out to be a fresh take at Avengers after the main team turned into a government-controlled institution. However, the West Coast Avengers spawned another team, Force Works, which ended up being one of the worst unofficial Avengers teams of all time. Now, the West Coast Avengers had an outsized influence on the recent happenings of this Marvel Cinematic Universe. This team was where White Vision first showed up, and it's where Scarlet Witch lost her children. It's also where John Walker returned as U.S. Agent after losing his role as Captain America, with the government sending him to join the West Coast Avengers to keep him updated from the team. Okay, so related to this article is Science Explained Hulk's green skin in a disgusting way, but it makes sense. We're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. But by the end of the West Coast Avengers, Scarlet Witch and U.S. Agent were the heart and soul of the team. John Walker had finally found his place in the world, only to have the main Avengers take it away from him. In West Coast Avengers number 102, they were fighting between the team members. The main Avengers wanted to shut down the West Coast Avengers, and the two teams battled on the spot. And of course, eventually West Coast Avengers were disbanded. So, I believe I actually did this article before, so I'm going to be doing another article, just because I just feel like I'm getting a little bit of deja vu again. I'm getting a little bit of deja vu because I basically just did that. I could have sworn I remembered I did that article not too long ago. Now, if you're my subscribers on my channel, you probably already realized I already talked about that. So, if you picked that up, then good. If you didn't, then okay, it's whatever. So, okay. So now we're going to be switching topics, and we're going to be going to Star Wars. Okay, so this was hot off the truck 5 hours ago. Star Wars number 1, signed by Hamill, Ford, Fisher, and more, hits on an auction block. Now, the high-grade copies of Star Wars number 1, autographed by 6 of the movie stars, including Mark Hamill and the late Carrie Fisher, was up for an auction. This was hot 5 hours ago. Okay, so a high-grade copy of Marvel Star Wars number 1 from 1977, autographed by 6 of the film stars, is up for an auction. The issue is signed by Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and late Carrie Fisher, and others as well. Now, some auctions were handling the sales, however, but then related to this article, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker graphic novel gets the blockbuster finale a new look. We're not talking about that. So there's this very, 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 very high-grade copy picture of the Star Wars number 1 down below. Now, you can't see it, but I can see it. I'm probably going to save this article, keep this article open, save the photo, and keep it to my library somewhere. But, of course, this is a high-grade copy that has some of the autographs of the famous people who played in Star Wars. Now, it was a 9.6 CBC scale, so I'm hoping that whoever finds or buys this copy of Star Wars number 1 from whoever this auction is, I'm hoping they'll be able to keep it in premier shape. Because you don't just auction something special to someone and then realize, oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? So Star Wars number 1 was the first issue of the 6-part story arcs which are written by Roy Thomas and drawn by Howard Chaykin. But this adapts the legendary space show that the comic's title continued until 1986 with the original story set from the Star Wars universe. Although it incorporated a 6-issue adaptation of the second part of the trilogy, The Empire Strikes Back, in the 80s. Okay, so this issue had a 9.6 CGC Signature Series scale, and it was signed over in April 17th of 2015. Hamill signed it in 2015, and Ford signed it in 2021. So then, also, of course, these signatures are very, very, very valuable, given the fact that you had a lot of different characters who are no longer around, like Carrie Fisher. She is no longer with us anymore in the real world. And so, yeah, anyway. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about another topic. We're going to be talking about a Batman villain. So Batman's next villain mashes up the Riddler and the Joker. Okay, so at first you might be wondering, how is this possible? Well, you know, comic book universe, all sorts of stuff happens. But this is a new villain for Batman in the latest issue of the Legends of the Dark Knight that mashes up two villains, the Riddler and the Joker. It appears to be a cross between two of Batman's worst enemies. This was hot off the truck a day ago. So warning, there are spoilers from the Legends of the Dark Knight number 4 by Derek Robertson. It's on sale in comic book stores right now. So the Riddler and the Joker have been iconic parts of Batman's gallery since his early adventures in the 40s. Each of these villains has evolved dramatically over the decades. However, the two also have quite a lot in common. So, Legends of Dark Knight number 4, Batman faces off a new foe called Quiz, who bear striking similarities to both the classic rogues, and may have a link to this obscure villain with the same name. Okay, so related to this article is DC resurrects Legends of the Dark Knight as a weekly anthology series. Well, again, like I said, this is very, very, very cool information regarding to the Batman comics. But again, I might do some videos in the Batman comics maybe sometime in the future. It's just not going to be like right away. It's going to probably be like a couple weeks or so. When there's more information on Batman, I might do some more news about him. But anyway, okay, so there's a picture down below of this new villain. You can't see it, but I can see it. But the issue opens with Batman and Jim Gordon investigating a classic Riddler-type letter with the clue that has been left by an envelope with a question mark. This extra riddle is written in magazine cutouts just like from the movie Batman Forever. But solving this riddle leads Batman to an old abandoned casino by Gotham Docks, which was a rundown gambling establishment due to the fact the former site of major game shows, where people who won big casino traditional games would compete to win more. Never realizing the show was rigged, Batman investigates. He walks into an old set of the show, and he falls himself into a trap. Oh no. Next, at first he thinks that he has been caught by the Riddler, but after a barrage of giggles, a young woman reveals herself clad in purple and green, a question mark emblem just like the Riddler, but also has a bowler hat and a huge toothy smile. While both Riddler and Joker shared the purple and green color schemes, this woman had a question mark necklace, carries a cane topped with the symbol just like Riddler did. But then, her giggles and green tinted hair seems to influence the Gotham's Crown Prince of crime. I'm sorry about that. But she introduces herself as Quiz. Now this issue ends with her asking Batman what he would do to save his loved ones. Not such like a riddle though, or a joke. More as like a heavy-handed threat. Okay, so related to this article, Batman Legends of the Dark Knight unleashes a new killer in Gotham. Now, we're not going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about Batman stuff later, I said. So, it's worth noting that this is not the first Gotham villain named Quiz. In 1995's Batman Chronicles #3, there was another version of the Quiz, which was Riddler's henchwoman, who worked alongside another woman named Query. Now, this was another Quiz who fought alongside with the Doom Patrol, who has every power her enemies had, but not yet thought of, though she's clearly unconnected to the events of Gotham. Neither of Riddler's henchwomen, Quiz, has appeared in comics for over a decade. It seems that this new version of Quiz may be an attempt to bring her back, almost like a revival. While solicitations for the Legends of the Dark Knight #5 indicate that she's indeed working with the Riddler, her alongside with the Riddler could try to convince Batman to help. Or I don't know how they'd help, but again, that's kind of just beyond the question. Okay, so yeah, that is that information. Now we're going to be doing some more information. Now, since there's so much hot new comic book universe, there has to be a lot of... Okay, now keep in mind, guys, these websites have very, very, very good information. And again, next we're going to be switching gears. We're going to go to X-Men. So X-Men, Emma Frost knows why Apocalypse made Cable's clone evil. Okay, this was also hot off the truck 5 hours ago. Warning, there are Cable #10 spoilers. Cable #10 is by Jerry Dugan. It's on sale now. One of the greatest threats to the mutant population is the modern-day Strife, this time-traveling nefarious clone of Nathan Summers. But while he's been a major enemy to the Summers family over the years, Emma Frost makes an interesting point about this villain. In Cable #10, Emma explains her new theory as why Apocalypse made sure to corrupt the clone of Nathan Summers into Strife, considering Apocalypse's relative noble turn since the turning and the forming of the mutant nation Krakoa. She believes that this is meant for an ultimate challenge for the Summers family to help them grow stronger by forcing them to overcome major threats. Okay, so related to this article is X-Men Hellfire Gala Guide offers new details to crossover events. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something else. Okay, so Cable has been trying to figure out how to defeat Strife, who remains a major threat to the mutants of modern day. Unlike his older counterpart, who is an often key part of stopping all time-hopping villain plans, the modern young Cable hasn't been able to recover a group of stolen mutant children, but yet he's been grown increasingly desperate in the efforts to catch villains, even considering attacking his fellow mutant figures if it means getting across the Cerebro. He's even willing to move back to distant future to an attempt to bring back the more experienced skilled aged Cable. While again speaking of Emma Frost, Cable points out this is exhausted. He is with Apocalypse and is part in leading Strife to become the villain he was today. Okay, so Apocalypse infected the original Nathan Summers with a techno-organic virus, which forced him to send into the distant future to survive. Fearing his survivability, the sister cloned the infant only for Apocalypse to capture the clone and raise him into a monstrous threat. Because of this overarching threat, Cable is furious of the powerful former villains. But then Emma makes a new argument to Cable, pointing out that everything done by this ancient mutant might has always had the ulterior motive in making this clone the genuine threat. Okay, so that's another thing I'm not talking about. So now we're going to come back to a thing. So Apocalypse has always been obsessed with making other beings fit enough to survive the threats of the world. Emma had argued that Apocalypse may not have created strife just as a major threat to the world, but as a waystone by which Cable and the rest of Summers' family could become stronger. It is an interesting point for Emma, especially considering how Strife was initially stolen the ancient mutant as a possible body. But by turning Strife into the ultimate challenge for the Summer family along the way, Apocalypse also created the ultimate test for the Summers family and their allies with the X-Men. Okay, so Strife was forced the Summers family to rise to the challenge on multiple occasions with stories like Executioner songs, forcing the team to overcome the threats thrown at them by time-displaced telepaths. It's been a genuine threat to multiple time periods, forcing plenty of heroes to push themselves past the limits to defeat him. Given that recent revelations have Apocalypse has long waited to ensure mutant kind was powerful enough and prepared enough to help him rescue his family and the rest of Morocco, it paints the ancient mutant's motivations in turning the clone of Cable into a genuine monster. In this new light, suggesting he did so to make his enemies all the more powerful by giving them powerful enemies to overcome and grow as a result. Okay, so that was just a little bit of some quick X-Men information about some new updates on Cable's clone. So right now the time check is 22 minutes. So I'm going to be doing one more article discussion. And in case you're wondering, I might actually be making more longer videos with lots of different topics ranging within the same videos. That way, I'll be able to cover twice as much content just in one video instead of only just having short content in a video. You know what I'm saying? So, again. Okay, so we're going to find some other information. So don't worry. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to be doing a Superman article. So the Superman news from 21 hours ago. Okay, so it says how Superman created a firestorm by renouncing his American citizenship. Okay, so today we look back in April 2011 at the time Superman renounced his United States citizenship in Action Comics 900. This was just a look back. The feature that I plan to do is at least all 2020 and possibly beyond this. We'll possibly forget about a week, who knows. The concept is that every week we'll probably be skipping the 4th, 5th weeks of the year, or maybe not, of a month. I'll spotlight a single issue of the comic books that came from the past and talk about the issues, often in terms large-scale, series, overall, etc. Each week we'll take a look at a comic book from different years that came out the same amount years ago. Okay, we're just going to skip all this crap and go right to our stuff. So we want to get to the good stuff. So okay, here we go. Action Comics 900 was the conclusion to a year-long story by Paul Cornell and Pete Woods, where Lex Luthor took control as the lead of Action Comics while Superman was doing his walk across the United States upon returning from a stint living on New Krypton. However, this was the main story of the issue. The comic also had a series of short backup stories by some prominent writers and some of the screenwriters as well. It's actually pretty cool, right? Right. So this was just Goyer's story, but it was caused all this controversy. So, in a story titled The Incident, with art done by Miguel Sepulveda and Paul Mounts, Superman is confronted by the President's National Security Advisors, who asks why Superman visited Iran during the middle of a protest. Superman explained that he wanted to see what was going on. From there, he showed up and just stood there, not interfering but not moving, for an entire day, and it inspired a great deal of protest. Okay, that was pretty much a pretty stupid move on Superman's part, but we can understand. So the NSA advisor explains that the situation was causing international incidents, as though Superman was seen to be there as an American agent. Superman explained that he was planning to resolve it by renouncing his American citizenship to detangle all ties with the United States for his actions. Okay, so hold on guys, I'm going to be plugging in my laptop because last thing you want is my video to die and you don't want that. So, okay, now my thing's plugged in. Okay, so back to what we were saying. Okay, so amusingly enough, Goyer didn't expect any problem, but since he saw Superman doing it as a favor to the United States, he explained to Entertainment Weekly it was also interesting to me that people thought it was a slight against America. It wasn't meant to be that at all, but he was actually trying to protect America from what he intended to do. However, Superman continued to talk about having, I think, bigger terms than a country. People still took it a shot at the U.S. Okay, so his uncle, who used to read comic books back in the 60s, wrote that they said, but since Uncle was a smart man, he wrote in terms that the story being misconstrued, Jim Lee and Dan DiDio had to do some damage control, releasing a statement from the New York Post stating that Superman was a visitor from a distant planet, who has long embraced American values, but as a character and icon, he embodies the best of the American ways. We already know that, so like I said, now we want to just keep going. So, editors have said perhaps the most apologetic, he felt that it wasn't more evident that Goyer's story was meant to be out of continuity, explaining the Superman homepage, but we had no idea the story would create such a firestorm, especially since it was one of several short stories celebrating the 900th issue of Action Comics, but not the main piece of the book. Had I done a better job of making this clear to the readers, the story in the back may have not fit into continuity, and all simply a celebration of this character from diverse sets of writers and artists. Perhaps things would have been so loud, but then again, we understood why people objected to this story, particularly in the day and age. Personal preference is to stay away from politics in books, which people want to be entertained, not reminded of how unpleasant the world is. Having said that, I really love David Goyer's work, but after inviting him to say something about Superman, I thought it would be wrong not to let him say that. As some other people noted, the whole thing was just a one-off, so it never actually went anywhere, and so it died down quickly after that. But it certainly made an interesting month for Superman titles. Okay, so this goes on this whole rest of this way, and again, yeah, okay guys, so sorry if that last article was a little bit boring, but like I said, that is just some flashbacks on Superman and how it kind of tied in with Action Comics number 900. If you guys like this content, please hit a thumbs up, and if you didn't, that's okay, I understand. And you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.